What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my guide for the Contamination armor set that was released with the Relics of Rivellon DLC for Divinity Original Sin 2. Jumping straight into it, the Contamination armor set is awesome. However, it's going to take you a while to get it. Now, the first two armor sets in this DLC gift bag were relatively easy to get. You can get them probably, the first one you can get before, even 10 hours of gameplay. The second one, the Vulture armor, you're looking at probably 20-ish, give or take, kind of depending on how fast you're moving and depending on the difficulty setting, if it's your first time playing, all that kind of thing. But those two you can get relatively early in the game. Now, the last two, the Contamination armor set and the Devourer, you're going to have to wait until the very end of the game. So if you're someone like me who's played this a million times and can get to that last area in like 30 to 40 hours of gameplay doing literally everything, that's like bare minimum, assuming you're not like speedrunning it or something. Needless to say, you're gonna have to put in some work to get this set. However, the Contamination armor set will require you to pick up pieces, or at least assist in acquiring those pieces, that is, throughout the entirety of the acts of the game. So it starts in Fort Joy, the very first act of the game. There is an area where you will meet Fane, or you can add him to your party if you want to, and north of that area, there was an area where you could fight a big turtle boss that turns into a void-woken creature. Now that's part of the base game. However, next to that, they've added a new area where you can find a shipwreck. Now, if you go onto that shipwreck and investigate, you will find an elf referred to as a scion being attacked by several magisters. Now, through dialogue, you could, in theory, try to help the magisters or help the elf. However, pretty much regardless of your choices here, you're pretty much going to have to kill the magisters, because even if you offer to help them, they're like, no thanks, you're a sorcerer, we would like to kill you. With that in mind, the magisters either attack or you attack them, and they will die. And at this point, you can actually also kill the elf, and if you choose to, she will drop 2 pieces of the Contamination armor set. However, for the sake of the lore, we are actually going to leave her alive. But just know, at any point throughout this guide, you can totally just kill this woman and take all of the pieces she has acquired. So once we deal with this situation and we talk to either Diana or we investigate the ship, now if you don't talk to her like right after this, she will just walk off and disappear, so you have to talk to her pretty quick. But if you do, she explains that basically the magisters were using her spores and that they're dangerous, and that's pretty much all she'll say right now, and she's pretty cryptic about it. You're basically forced to investigate the ship at this point if you want more information, and you can do one of two things. You can click on one of the bodies writhing in agony with vines, and you can also find a ship manifesto up towards the tail end of the ship. Now, if you read the manifesto, it basically explains that this woman, Diana, is an elven scion. She had a bunch of spores with her when they brought her aboard. They were confiscated. She was very upset about it, and they consider her very dangerous. And then if you investigate the bodies of vines that you will have noticed, of course, by now, if you investigate those and click on them, if you have the scholar tag with the person you're investigating with, they will immediately recognize them as the same type of elven magic that is used to make the elven ancestor trees, that is, trees with spirits in them. From here, we can basically gather that the spores were used somehow on these people, and it was clearly very detrimental to their health. And that's pretty much all you're going to know right now. Also in the manifesto, it will tell you other places that the spores had been shipped for study. Now, this doesn't really pick up again until Act 2 in Reaper's Coast. So we will find Diana again, actually, just north of the Paladin Bridgehead checkpoint, as you should be able to see on this map. When we find Diana again, we can talk to her, and she'll actually tell us more about what's going on. Basically, the armor is talking to her because it is inhabited by some sort of spirit, and it would very much so like Diana to gather all of the pieces of her armor in some sort of holy ritual. And she says that it's easier to explain it by showing you than actually explaining it. So she walks over to this magister that's tied up nearby, who's already been infected by something, and she utters a phrase. And that phrase causes the spore that the magister is contaminated with to explode, killing the magister, wrapping them in all those vines we saw earlier, forming a piece of armor out of those vines, which Diana then picks up and takes, which is the third piece she now has. Now from this point, if we choose not to kill Diana for this obviously horrible thing she's doing, she will send you to the Black Pits, which is one of the locations that was mentioned that the magisters sent one of the spores to. Now once we get down to the Black Pits area, we can find 2 Magisters and the dead body of another Magister talking in a bit of a corner here in the Black Pits. It is just above the main little village area. Now when we walk up, we will talk to them, and it will turn out that one of them is wearing the chest piece. The dead one on the ground was infected with the spores. It activated, the spores overtook him, and it made the chest piece of the set. Now the other guy decided to put the chest piece on because he's an idiot, and now it is slowly killing him. Now through dialogue we can save this guy's life by basically ripping the armor piece off of him, or we can just let it kill him and do nothing. Doesn't really matter either way. Now once we have this chest piece and we've resolved that little situation, we need to bring it back to Diana. Now we can either give it to her, or we can be like, no, this is ours, and fight her. Again, you can kill her at any point in this quest line. It really doesn't matter. It will still continue. Again though, for lore purposes, we are going to leave her alive. So we're going to give her the chest piece back, and she's like, thanks, the last piece is in arcs, because now she has 4 pieces. And the last one is in arcs because they sent it to the Magister's barracks there. The main takeaway here is from talking to Diana here, we can tell that she is going absolutely insane. So the armor, the voice in that armor that is telling her to do these things is 100% driving this woman crazy. The next act of the game is actually the Nameless Isle. This quest doesn't continue at all there. We won't bother with it. It does not continue until the 4th act, which is Arx. Now, Arx is a city. In that city is a Magister's barracks. Now, there is some plot-relevant events that we're not really going to go over there that happen at the Magister's barracks. However, if you go through the side door, find the ladder of sorts that leads down to a beach and a sewer entrance, behind the Magister's barracks, you can discover a hidden entrance to a lab. That entrance will take you to a secret laboratory, of course. There we will find Diana, and she's just completed the armor set by finding the helmet. The armor at this point forcefully takes Diana over. Now she's actually like, whoa, this isn't what we agreed to, but the conversation is basically that Diana thought she was going to assemble this armor piece and it was going to help unify her people, and the armor's like, actually I'd like to just kill everyone. The armor takes her over, Diana attacks you, and summons this huge boss fight. Now this boss fight is actually really interesting. It's one of the new ones that was added with this DLC. Boss fight itself is a bit of a pain on Tactician. I beat it first try, honestly, but it was annoying, especially just kind of trying to learn on the fly. But basically, the giant monster enemy in the middle of the room is obviously the big bad. He will have a bunch of buffs when he gets summoned, called Bloom of Metal, stuff like that. Now, there are 3 flowers nearby that are giving him these boons. They don't do anything, they're just static. You just need to hit them and kill them. They will have a decent amount of health, though. Now, in addition to this, there are a bunch of trash enemies that are summoned who will do a bunch of poison damage and hit you a ton. So, what you want to do is kill the flowers giving the buffs to the main guy as quickly as possible, because they will destroy you. The main guy, that is. While he has those buffs, he is ridiculously strong. So get rid of the flowers, which will weaken the main boss, and then at that point, you can focus on picking off the trash mobs and Diana, and save the big bad guy for last, and then once everybody else is gone, he's a cakewalk. Once he is dead, we can of course loot all of the armor pieces off of Diana, and put them on a character. Now, we don't need to put all of them on to trigger the next part, we just need to put the helm piece on. Once we put the helm on a character, it's going to enter us into a dialogue, and basically we have to, through force of will or persuasion or whatever you want to call it, convince the helm or reconcile the spirit in the helm with us letting us wear it, basically. So from here, this is way easier with persuasion, by the way, because you can just pass the persuasion checks, whereas if you fail the persuasion checks, or if you don't answer the questions properly, the character who put the helm on will be charmed, and your other characters will be forced to put him down, and then you'll have to try again. Because until you successfully win this helmet over, you cannot wear the full armor set, thus getting all of the awesome benefits. From this conversation, we learned that basically this elven spirit was around when all of the trees and stuff were destroyed by death fog with Lucian, and giving into the despair of that event, the armor is basically just trying to use its power of these spores and contaminating and infecting people, bringing everyone to heal, like literally everyone, indiscriminately. It just wants to control everyone now, which is apparently supposed to help the elves somehow. Either way, you can tell the spirit's kind of gone a little nuts because it's not all there. Because it specifically mentions that it is a fractured being, and it thinks by absorbing all these people, maybe it can make itself whole again. So if it doesn't make sense, it's not supposed to. The spirit is intended to be a little crazy. That's why it doesn't exactly add up. Now from here, we can show off the armor set itself. This armor is awesome. If you have all of it on, it will all scale to level 19. It will give you tons of poison resistance, 75% exactly. Having all of it on gives you the Rooting Corruption buff, which gives you the poison resistance I just mentioned. It will also cause that character to bleed poison. Physical damage will cause your character to send forth a poison projectile, the direction that character is facing, that will hit enemies. In addition, the armor itself gives you some skills. One of the pieces gives you the Living Wall skill, which allows you to put up vines that will block passages of enemies. I believe it's the gloves, will give you the ability to clear poison environmental effects and also give your character a buff that varies and scales on the amount of poison effects that were just cleared, as well as tons of bonuses to Hydrosophist and Geomancer, which is awesome because that pairs really well with my Shaman build. What I like about this armor set is it actually scales off Constitution, which is interesting because not a lot of armor scales off Constitution. Usually it's either Intelligence, Strength, or Finesse. And because it scales off Constitution, pretty much anybody can wear it and thus receive the benefits from it, especially that big poison resistance. Now, the thing I don't like is you get it so late in the game that most of the big poison battles have already happened. Like there are several battles on the Nameless Isle and such where this armor piece would have been amazing, but you get it so late in the game it's not super helpful to have it. But that said, it is still a very powerful piece of armor. The whole set is really cool. I should have all the pieces up on the screen with their stats and everything in full display so you can see exactly what each one gives you. There you go, guys. That is the guide for the Contamination armor set. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. It did take me a while because it was such a long quest line as far as what you had to do to get to each step. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing day. May you wander in wisdom. See you next time.